Hello out to all you wonderful people. This is Andre, the Game I Dig Guy. Thank you once again for lending me your time and your ear listening into another Gamer's Thoughts discussion. And this time I'm going to be talking about power again. Obviously because because of the Steam Deck, everybody's like crapping on the Switch, which is like 5 years older than the Steam Deck. And you know what, that's cool and all. And games aren't coming to the Switch because of power. And like this has been debunked too many times to be counted, because it's not the hardware's capability of processing what's going on in the game. And yeah, if a game engine is on a console, that essentially means that game can run on that console. Tweaking will be involved, obviously, but that would mean that that game could be transferred over to that console. It just boils down to resource management and money. It depends on who wants to make the payment for the money. I mean, not the payment for the money, the payment for the resources to have it ported. I mean, we didn't run into this excuse when the PS2 was still bleeding into the PS3's life at all. And the PS2 was still getting new games for a very long time. Several of them that were on the PS3 as well. And every other 7th generation platform. So power honestly was not the issue. It was, do we want to spend the money to put it on this platform? Is it viable for us to do that? That's all it boils down to. And sometimes companies don't realize whether or not something is actually viable for them. I don't know what they look at per se that tells them that, hey, yeah, this is a good fit for here and this isn't a good fit for there. But that's all it comes down to. It literally comes down to whoever owns the rights as publisher, or whoever's doing the publishing, deciding whether or not they're going to pay to have a game moved over to a different platform. That's it. Now, I mean, if they're an indie company, they're more than likely going to put their games on everything because, one, their games aren't that resource heavy usually, and two, they make more money the more platforms they're on. For major third parties, because they spend so much money into development and everything, yeah, I can see why they would hold off on running to certain platforms, especially if they didn't make their game with that platform in mind in the first place. That's why a lot of games end up having the issues that they do when it comes down to it. But putting stuff on Steam Deck doesn't even play every Steam game. Like, let your head wrap yourself around that one. Steam Deck doesn't play every game on Steam. There are still plenty of games on Steam Deck. Whether or not the hardware is literally capable of running it isn't the issue. This is the thing that's on the OS/software side of things. But people don't want to think about that when they make these arguments. Like, if Steam Deck isn't playing every game in the Steam library, which honestly not even every computer can play every game in the Steam library, not without heavy modification, you're going to run into issues. Because I have several games in my Steam library right now that I can't play on my computer, and it's not because the hardware can't run the game. Literally, it's because there's software problems with Windows 10 and running that into Steam. Those software issues prevent me from running certain games, even though my hardware is well more than capable of brute forcing these games 30 times over. Sometimes people just need to understand that it's not always the hardware. Sometimes it's the software, sometimes it's the programming. Sometimes it's just because the company isn't willing to put the money into it for it to be moved. These are all reasons. Yes, the hardware thing could have been a thing a while back, but as long as they're still putting games on PS4 and Xbox One, which it looks like they will be at least for another couple years, there's no problem with putting games on the Switch. Let's be honest here. And hey, if you can make a game run at lower settings on an Xbox Series S, then also it should not be a problem putting stuff on the Switch. Again, it comes down to what companies are willing to spend and what they're willing to do to get stuff on a certain platform. And also, if the platform holder is giving them any additional incentives. Now, let's be honest here, Nintendo more than likely isn't giving anybody any incentives to put games on their platform unless it's an exclusive. So that's another thing to consider. There's very few games, if any, right now that can't be run on the Switch that are current games. It all comes down to scaling and, maybe changing a couple settings here or there. You still get the same general experience for the game. You're not missing like the whole game. You may just be missing a few features as far as the visual quality of it. Gameplay wise, Switch probably has more options because it's more control options like PC. But again, this is just me talking about it out loud. It should be stuff that people should understand pretty easily. But for some reason, like once we hit 8th generation, everybody either forgot or they couldn't take the time to do a little bit of research to find out. This is honestly stuff that I would not expect anybody to have a hard time figuring out, especially because gaming went heavily mainstream or more mainstream during the 7th generation. But again, it's all up to people taking the time to figure it out. And I will again make the statement. Power was ever the issue. It should have been an issue during 7th generation. The Wii didn't get skipped because of lack of power. The Wii got skipped because people didn't want to put the money into putting games on it until they saw how popular it got. And then it was, hey, let's find a way to throw Call of Duty World at War in this thing. And then we're also going to go ahead and remake Modern Warfare specifically for the Wii and its capabilities the way it should be able to play it. And hey, you're still getting games on the PS2. You got freaking Sonic Unleashed on the PS2, which most people would have thought that wouldn't have happened. And it is by far the most inferior version of the game, but it's still there, it's still playable. You can still enjoy it. It's not always the hardware's capability, or people trying to really tell me that the PS2 was more powerful than the GameCube, which, for the record, it wasn't. But yet that got GTA, and the GameCube didn't. GameCube could have ran it, but it just never got it. Like, think your arguments through before you say them. I mean, I know that's not always possible, but if you're going to make that particular argument, look for any antithesis to what you have to say to see if your argument holds up. But I'm going to stop it here. Thank you guys very much for listening and keep your eyes and ears out for more stuff from me. And until the next time, enjoy your games. Peace out, everybody.